Well, guys, we've made it. What was your first impression besides it being just like The Apprentice?
I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, it's fun time. It's nerve-wracking, absolutely, for the SDRs, and a little bit for the mystery prospects too, because like you guys have to, understand how their ICP's mindsets would be. But I mean, you do this for a living, pretty much, so it's a bit easier for you guys. Let's get down to brass tacks. This, post-episode interview is all about you guys, your journey into sales, how you met, as well as like some of your tips and tricks for SDRs. So I kind of want to start there because I know each of you have a very interesting journey into sales. Jack, I know you were a cruise ship singer, and Zac, you also been active in the music scene for quite some time. So I kind of want to understand how did you two meet, become friends or arch enemies, and how did you both get into sales?
Where should we start?
Where do we start? I'm going to say, I don't remember the first time we met. I don't know if you can remember, but we've been part of the same friendship group since we were 14, 15. So we're looking at 17, 18 years of friendship now. I think we first started to bond. We were both in drama class together. So two 15-year-olds who were in drama, and we enjoyed drama. But I think we enjoyed making each other laugh more. And yeah, we both got
persisted, hasn't it?
This was.
I said that's persisted throughout. That's sometimes the only thing that we do. Try and make each other laugh with LinkedIn jokes and ridiculous stuff rather than running the business, which we probably should.
Exactly.
I think you guys stand out a lot on LinkedIn, and considering that everybody out there is taking a very serious tone towards cold calling, prospecting SDR-ish stuff, and you guys are out there photoshopping memes on top of Fast and Furious pictures. I love it. I think it's not only great for a marketing standpoint, but also to have people truly stop being so serious in cold calling, because nobody needs to be that serious, right? Make fun of it. You're actually calling somebody out of the blue, but that's at least my take from it. I did want to ask you guys, you sounds like you met when you were very young, your lifetime friends, lifetime partners. How did you guys come to the idea of we have a meeting, and how did that all start?
Shall I take that one?
That one, the founder should probably take that one.
So I was a career salesperson for 10 years. Like you said at the top, Dom, I was pursuing music. So I've got a music degree, thought sales was something that would maybe leave me paying my rent, but still able to pursue music on the side. So it was something that I fell into, like most people do. But in doing that, I really wanted to be good and understand the psychology and not just that things work. So if you told me use this opener, I'd be the guy that was like, why? Or asking that question, why that question? Why does that work? And spotting things in meetings with my superiors and thinking, oh, that bit didn't land. And the guy at the back just fell asleep when that slide opened up. Why did that happen? So I was always kind of studious to it. And then when the pandemic hit, I was very aware that not many salespeople were still sat at home doing the job still. That was an excuse to not do the job anymore. And I was one of the ones that was still out there closing deals, getting meetings. And a few businesses that I'd spoke to said, we want someone like you to come and do this for us. Our sales team have been exposed because of the pandemic. They're not very good. And then another person said it to me. And then a third person said it to me. And I thought, this has got to be a sign. So I left my job with my fourth child on the way. I had a month's wages to make it work. I've got a mortgage to pay and kids to feed and stuff, and just thought it's kind of now or never. What better motivation do I need? Took those clients with me that were interested, started cold calling to fill the others. And then after maybe a month, 2 months, Jack had obviously been sent home from the cruise ships as well. And he was like, I'm looking for my next step. And then we started to have this kind of conversation in my style, which is trying to talk him out of coming to work for the business. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, Jack started to gradually warm up to the idea. Maybe, Jack, you can take it from there.
Yeah, it was. I think you texted me in the May or the June saying that you said, I've had a brainwave. And I said, are you feeling okay? And he said, I've got this business idea. And the the conversation continued for 4 or 5 months, and it was like, when I get here, I'm probably going to need somebody. I was working a dead end business insurance job. I was like, the ships will open again one day, and maybe I'll go back singing. And I was at that point in my life where I think I'd really started on like the self-development journey, and was like, I've got to do something better with my life than just sell crappy insurance. And we had this ongoing conversation, and then Zac said, why don't you come in? And I joined in the January. By the March, we got too much work on, so we had to hire 2 more people. And then by the May, it had grown again. I think we hired 5 people in one go. So yeah, it kind of snowballed fast, but I would not change any of it. And it's one of those things that you're always learning. So you're always learning, okay, I've never managed a team before. How do I manage an SDR? How do I give them feedback? How do I help get them to a point where they're going to want to come into work every day and improve? It was easy for me and Zac because we were managing ourselves, and we had a friendship that we trusted and relied on. When you bring different people into the business, it's a business then. It's not just 2 friends mucking about working from home. It's got to change. And it's 3 years this summer, so it's been a good journey.
Well, happy anniversary, guys.
Thank you.
But you both hit on something very important when you were speaking, which is the whole idea of managing a team, being first-time founders and making sure you are effective. And that's something that a lot of first-time founders have a lot of challenges with. So for you two, I'm curious to know, how did you go about those difficult conversations? How did you go about managing a team as a founder, as a co-director for the first time? Was it different to how you would manage people in the past? So yeah, I'll let you guys kind of take it from there.
Jack, am I going, Jack, or
you can go? I've got something that I'd like to say actually.
I think if you asked us at the start with the first hires, and compared to our answer now, it would be very different. The first hires come in as probably people that you hire because you like them, and it's quite a family friend feel at the start, which makes me feel sick to say that out loud. But it is true. And then because of that, people get special treatment, and liberties are made and boundaries are blurred a little bit. So maybe the feedback that you would want to give someone is hard because you've made someone your friend without really wanting to. So we've had to learn along the way how to manage people properly. One thing that I would say to people who are leading SDRs, one of our onboarding/interview questions is how, if you have to be really honest with me, how do you want feedback? Because I'm going to have to give you feedback at some point. Do you want me to short and sharp? If so, you can't look like you're going to cry. If you want it softly, that's also fine. But everyone has to tell us at the start how they want feedback and how they're managed, and it's led from the other side rather than us saying, come in and get on with it and do as we say. We're like, how do I get the most out of you? That's probably the conversation that we should have had at the start rather than trying to make everyone my friend. Jack?
I think when it comes to like delivering hard feedback or having difficult conversations, our style of selling kind of leads nicely into that. Like we're big fans of Chris Voss and Never Split the Difference. So it's a case of how do we use empathy? How do we use the accusation audit? Like sitting people down. And it's not just, and I think me and Zac are both, I will say, lucky enough that we've had some really shit bosses and some really toxic people that have managed us. So I think the best way to learn is, what would I not like? And I've had some good bosses as well. So it's like, right, okay, I want to be that guy, not that guy.
Yeah, and everybody has their own different style of being managed, like you guys both said. But I guess, how do you know, if somebody's telling you, hey, I want to be managed very sternly, but then in reality, maybe that's not the best way to manage them. Maybe they think differently.
You can test it in the interview, and we've had interesting. And probably can't tell that story. We've basically had like an interview where someone said, I want to be managed really directly, really take really direct feedback. And then we said, okay, well, here's some direct feedback, and gave it. And then they started crying. So you can test there and then. And I don't think that's anyone's fault. People are susceptible to cognitive dissonance. So the way they see themselves isn't always the way they actually are. So it's important when people present something like, this is who I am, you play it back to them. There's a guy who used to work here. He told me he was the most emotionless person that I was ever going to meet. He was the most emotional person I've ever met.
Wow.
It's just totally the way sometimes people play out isn't always their fault. And we've just got to test, okay, that's the way you see yourself. I'm going to hold up the mirror now and see if the image matches. And we play that in the interview.
Yeah. And then doing the experimentation to test different types of, I guess, outreach to giving back this feedback, which is interesting. No, I love it. Guys, if you're all right with it, I'd like to get to strategies, to really digging down to like some tips. As you know, LinkedIn is flooded these days with sales advice, tips and tricks. And a lot of it, at the end of the day, is a bit BS. And so since you both have been doing this for so long, you've been in the industry, and I can already tell, you're very knowledgeable people. I'd like to rip apart at least the beginning of a cold call with you. And we've already talked a little bit about it earlier today with the reps who are on, but I want to understand from yourselves what you consider to be a engaging and inviting opener to actually creating trust and then leading into a more open discussion around the prospect's pains when you're cold calling.
What country would you like us to talk about?
If you both can, if you can both fit it in, but maybe split it down the middle, right? Talk a bit about the Anglo-Saxon market, talk a little bit about the UK or the EMEA market, right? Because I know there are different styles of having conversations in these different places. Okay,
so we can probably interject with each other here, Jack. Shall we just build this together?
Yeah.
So the UK, what works best is some form of pattern interrupt. So some form of open, honest, disarming quality, right? So the way I've coined a term, the inner gatekeeper. So when I ring someone up, it's the same as if I approach you in the street, Dom, and you're on your way to your car and I say, can I just bother you for a minute? But you're like, okay, what's this about? What do you want? The brain starts going away. So it's the inner gatekeeper. I've not got through to Dom yet. I've got through to Dom's defense mechanisms. Okay. So what I can do with that is I can disarm using honesty, humor, and lots of room to say no. So no pressure. Okay. So in the UK, some form of, Jack, I'll be really honest, this is one of those dreaded sales calls. So it's up to you. You can throw your phone out the window, or you can let me have 30 seconds, completely up to you. Now, most people that we ring that are the C-suite level don't like being told what to do. They're busy, they respect the honesty, and they get lots of people sending them lots of terrible outreach, usually probably on LinkedIn or email. So when we do that, at the very least, you're going to get, what is it that you're trying to sell? You can have 30 seconds, depends what it is, but we at least get that room, that foot in the door to pitch. And usually it's not that bit where people go wrong, it's the next bit, but we can talk about it in a minute. Jack?
Yeah, and I think we found that when we dial in, we work with a couple of American clients, and I think when we dial into America, it has to be a bit softer. I think that there's certain trigger words like sales call and cold call, I think because of what's happened over the years, and it's a bit of a wild west of people calling you up to try and buy your house. You'd never get away with that in the UK. Like somebody calling you and saying, can I buy your house? You'd say, who the blooming hell are you? So I think it's like, but the same psychology applies. So Dom, bit of a weird one. We don't know each other. I guess can I run through why I've chosen to call you? And if it's not relevant, we can just leave it there. Is that fair? So it's the same, allowing you room to say no, trying to be honest, get a little bit of humor in there, and using phrases like "is that fair?" and things like that. That's why I would say like people are always looking for the perfect cold call opener. There is no silver bullet. Like let's be honest, as much as we hate it. Hi, my name's Jack, calling from we have a meeting. How are you today? It will work. I do think tonality plays a huge part. But if you want to give yourself the best opportunity, treat people like human beings. People don't want to be kind of hustled into something or convinced. It's like give them the room to say no, and they're more likely to say yes.
Yeah. I mean, from what you're saying, right, from your experience, the American market, their guard is up more often than the UK market is. And so, like you said, like getting in there with like softer words, maybe a bit more of like, charismatic tonality. That's how you guys believe you'll be able to win when reaching out to that market, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just the sales cold call term is triggering because your data laws are different than ours. We've got a little bit of protection. I can ring anyone in your company, any time of the day to sell them anything. It's crazy.
That's right. That's right. Well, guys, it's been an incredible pleasure to have you on episode 7 now of this series. And for everybody watching, make sure to connect with Zac and with Jack on LinkedIn. Stay up to date with all things cold call and humor. Gents, before we close out here, anything you would like to say? Any shout outs you want to give? Any advice for reps who think that their phone is this 100-pound or 100-kilo brick on their desk and they just don't want to pick it up?
That's teed up for you, Jack, perfectly with one of your go-tos.
Nobody has ever died from cold calling. So remember, you'll die. Use the phone. It makes you money. I think one of the profound things I'll try and say is when you're sat there and you're thinking, I'm not getting enough feedback from my boss, or I'm not getting the data's cruddy, or whatever it may be, the product's not good enough. It's never your fault, or it might not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. So if you're an adult and you're working an adult job and you're paying rent and you're earning a salary, take some accountability. If life's hard, think about what can you do to solve it. Like sales is a skill that requires a lot of time and effort. So put the time in and you'll see the rewards.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. What a guy. What a guy.
Wow. I need that on the 10 Commandments.
One of the things I'd say that I realized over the years was you ring at the level you think you're worth. So people will not be comfortable ringing CEOs, founders, any C, but they'll be happily ring at management level and know that there's no path to revenue generation from this. So get over it and realize that the CEO is probably the loneliest person in the whole business. So if you can cold call him appropriately, or her, there will be a lot of venting and a lot of therapy, and your call will be more welcome than you realize. So just remember that.
No CEO wants to answer a cold call with some timid SDR on the other line saying, do you have 30 seconds? No. All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure. Honestly, thank you again for the feedback for the SDRs. Thank you again for the ability to have a quick chat with you guys here. And yeah, thanks again. Thank you again for everybody watching. We'll see you next time on Get Pitched. Bye now.
Thank you.